Here we go.
Let's go.
What's up, Kingdom of Rock? It's Matt Gibson today on this awesome Saturday morning. How's everybody doing out there? I've got a amazing guest. I had a chance to meet this fella on Michael Sweet's interview, and Michael kind of name dropped him, and we found out we live in the same city, and we've been chatting and find out we have quite a few things in common, and so I thought it would be great to bring my friend Roddy Chong on the show. How's it going, brother?
I'm doing well, Matt. Thanks for having me. And I see all these friends coming in. Heather, Kayla, Sydney, Logan, Nicole, Heather, Becky, Heather, Sydney. Oh, I'm starting to repeat people.
It's the same, Heather.
Yes, just wanted to say hello to them really quick. And yeah, I'm here. You know, once I saw that you had interviewed Grant Cardone, I was like, oh, that's a good test for me, because some people love him like myself, and some people don't necessarily love him.
Oh, you got to do that. I forgot.
That's right, the 10.
10X. Yeah.
And then, you know, Michael Sweet is a huge influence to many of us in music. He called himself a workaholic. I've seen him, you know, work just a guitar pedal for 3 hours. So, you know, to have Michael Sweet on the show, it brought me in. And so, yeah, now we're talking. So this is really fun.
Well, let me, dude, it's so cool to have you. Let me tell Kingdom of Rock a little bit about you. If you're not familiar with Roddy, you may have seen him out on tour with this amazing rock band called Trans Siberian Orchestra. He is the rock violinist for Trans Siberian Orchestra, arguably one of the world's best rock violinists. And he actually he's doing rock now, but before he actually did country music with an amazing artist, Shania Twain, and you know, during some really big moments in her career, and also the amazing Celine Dion. So Roddy has he's been around doing some cool stuff in the music business for quite a while, and it's a real treasure to have him here on the show. Hopefully he can give some of us artists a little bit of insight on how we can do music better. But also I'd like to give him a shout out. He mentioned Grant Cardone, who I'm a huge fan of. In fact, the reason I moved to Los Angeles is basically because Grant told me to go where the money is here in Los Angeles. And so here I am in LA, and Roddy has actually spoken at Grant Cardone's 10X GrowthCon convention, I think twice, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And so, you know, we're both big Grant Cardone fans and love what Grant teaches people about money and success and prosperity and things. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit. So Roddy, that's a pretty long intro, but welcome to the show. How's it going, brother?
Oh, it's going well. I got this big smile on my face, and I know we're going through a plague with this problem that's going on, but I'm seeing so many really cool people on the feed. Alberto Gonzalez with 10X, with Cardone's organization. I mean, those guys are still working on a Saturday, and they're tuning into this show. Yeah. And I saw a friend of mine, Jeff Pitzer. You know, when I was running around, I was actually trying to be a dancer at first. I know it's kind of odd, but I would go down to Nashville and try to meet creative people. And it was Jeff Pitzer's sofa that I slept on countless numbers of times. So part of what's going on with why I'm kind of able to smile, and I kind of have a baseline of positivity, is that I feel like I've been with my back against the wall for like 20 years, you know, just like I had nothing in college. I wanted to be creative and express myself and somehow make money, and I had none. So I was very open, and I had to search outside of my family and my church and the influences that I grew up with to try and and do more and be more. And so to see Jeff Pitzer here is really fun because he knows my whole story, and he saw my tears and he heard my joys too. So,
oh, that's cool. Well, like, what's your musical story? Like kind of give us the breakdown of like, you know, when you started to get into music and like take us on the journey.
Yeah, it's so funny because I actually don't do these live streams that often. I'm going to be doing like one a week or so, and Matt, you helped me with actually plugging the Ethernet cable into the computer, which made this all a lot better. And so I want to just read the comment section.
Oh yeah, good.
No, I don't, because then I can't answer any of your questions. We'll be here for 3 hours.
Well, how about this?
Yeah,
we can go back. We can scroll back too. So we can at the end we can go back and answer some questions and look at everybody, what everybody had to say.
Also, if everybody out there, if you want to grab a piece of paper and a pen and write down a few things, this is supposed to be not just where I'm just talking and saying I'm a great guy about myself. You know, this is where I want to serve you in my unique way. It's very unique that whatever even happened in my life happened. I'm very grateful for it. I also wanted to mention, I see Dr. Duck Vong's here, Dr. Vong. You can look up his Facebook and his YouTube. He is putting out up-to-date daily content about COVID-19. And cool. And he has a video that has 10 million views on it. But going back to my musical story without going into a 3-hour version is that my mom and my dad, but my mom was more vocal, got me involved with the violin at the age of 2. And it was with a Suzuki program, so it wasn't with the school. Mm-hmm. So from age 2 to 17, I practiced about 30 minutes a day. So it's not the 6-hour kind of thing you might hear. But it is true that a lot of Asians, it's in the family that the kids should practice violin or piano or something like that. So I was definitely a part of that. And then the summer of junior year into senior year of high school is when I stopped. So in there's about 10,000 hours of playing and practicing. And that's probably where I was able to at least have the fundamentals of violin playing. I didn't touch it in college, but after college, I heard a song on the radio by a band called Jars of Clay. And they had violin in the rock music. So I got rid of the sheet music, and I just learned the songs by ear off of the Jars of Clay CD, and that's what kind of got me going. And the story was very coincidental. How a friend of mine named Becca Stone, her name is now Becca Whitley, went on a date with a guy that was a producer for the CD of Jars of Clay. So when I heard. That was Flood, right? Flood was the main hit. Jars of Clay CD was simply called Jars of Clay, which that whole CD and really all their other albums were and are amazing music, just different and very, very good. And so Becca went out with this guy and talked me up, and that's how I was able to put the songs on video and send it to them, and then they eventually selected me. That right there was something I could do. Learn a song by ear, put it on video, and send it to a decision maker. And from there, I had that template. And I did that with everybody. I did that with I See Your Shirt, Metallica. I did that with places that didn't even have violin. Madonna. I did that with Elton John. I did anyone that was big, because in my mind, I was like, look, I mean, if God wants all the planets to align and I become the star, fine. But I knew I could support somebody else. And so when I hear on your podcast or your video podcast here, some of these other folks like playing with Lady Gaga and that kind of a thing, I'm very happy for them, because these people are on rocket ships and we want to jump on board. There's no there's nothing wrong with that. It was only all great reward for me to be able to be something more than I was by being a part of other people's projects. But really quick, the Jars of Clay thing, I actually got let go, and that put me into a real time of depression. So what's going on in our world right now reminds me of that time. It was a serious time of loss where I lost a lot. I lost my esteem also because I had lost the job that was very cool, and jobs in the performing arts that are very cool are not easy to come by.
Right.
So that's some of the beginning.
Yeah. So as far as the one thing I really liked about your story there is that you put together kind of like a package, and you use that package to market yourself to all these job opportunities that you had. And it was, you took the time to be a professional and get organized and and then you sent it out to everybody. I think that's something a lot of artists today, especially in the early parts of their career, they maybe fail to do is present themselves professionally and with that kind of higher standard of doing things. Would you say that? What would you say to speak to that?
Yeah, I always feel like I'm going to bother people, like even people that are on the stream right now. Some of my clients are here. Some of the people from Cardone's office are here. I don't want to bother them, but that's just not true. There's something really false about that, but I always feel that way. So you have to just take action. Like Nike says, just do it, right? So, because I don't want to be judged negatively, but just I was literally sending out physical packages. What's interesting is that it's easier now. So it's being done where you can find a decision maker in any industry and send them something. Video does tell a lot, tells the personality.
Right.
It tells the vibe of what you're dealing with.
Right.
But Grant Cardone talks about contacting somebody 8 times, like an octopus has 8 tentacles. And I didn't know that before, but I would reach out like 4, which was a lot more than 0. And that's how I was able to get some results. And oh my gosh, Brent Barkus is here. So I got to talk about Brent Barkus because I saw him performing with Kenny Loggins and DC Talk and Stephen Curtis Chapman. Oh, and nice. And he also is a good looking man. And Brent Barkus can play guitar and sing at the same time, which I wasn't singing at the same time. But my whole platform, or a lot of it, came from the Shania Twain rocket ship. And I definitely would not have had the audition without Brent Barkus. So Brent, I've told you by text, Brent's never seen me speak before, but I always mention him in my speaking events. And what happened, the inside story to the Shania Twain audition is there were 3 violinists. Shania wanted 3, and they already had them. I was not even in the picture. But one of the violinists, I don't mean to speak disparagingly about anybody at all. Like Steve Vai said in your last podcast, everything happens for you, Right. And for this guy, from what I heard, he had the spirit of, I want to just do my own music. I don't want to play parts for Shania Twain. So he left and kind of left everybody in a bit of a pickle because they're ramping up for TV shows to get to the tour, and they have this empty spot. So she literally was like, well, who do you know? And I had been bothering Brent. Brent, you can say if I was bothering you, but I would call Brent every once in a while with a list of questions on a legal pad like this. And he'd let me get through one question, and then he would kind of be hanging up on me. And it was so funny. But I considered Brent my mentor. even though he would basically let me talk or have a phone call be about 3 minutes. And so he did something different, though. He called me and he asked me, how's your fiddle playing? And I said to him, I don't really like fiddle. I like violin and rock music.
Right.
So I got to tell you, that was the totally wrong thing to do. Like, I've learned from Grant that if somebody says, how's your fiddle playing? I should be like, I'm very proficient at all things violin.
Right.
I'm not necessarily lying and saying I'm the greatest fiddle player in the world, but I'm going to say something very positive, be very agreeable. But I actually said the opposite. I said, I don't like fiddle. And, but then, and when he told me, but that was an insecurity in me. When I heard about country music, he said there was an audition with country music. I just was like, I don't see how the Chinese guy is going to look any good on CMT. Like, I saw the big brim hat. I just, country music to me with the big trucks and everything, the horses, it was out of my world.
Right.
And, he did say, Brent did, how's your singing? And I was like, I can sing great. I can sing a high D, right? But that's because what I was listening to was metal music. So the metal people are screaming. Michael Sweet is screaming, right? So I did the right thing by saying I can do that very well, And so in the very end, Brent on the conversation said, well, the artist is Shania Twain. That's what I heard. And I put in the search Shania Twain because I didn't know who this was. And so then a website came up that said the only country artist bigger than Shania Twain is Garth Brooks. So I had heard of Garth Brooks. So then I called Brent right back and I said, I didn't sound too excited last night, did I? And he's like, not really. And I was like, I am excited. I can do this audition. I can do this tour. They don't have to look anywhere else. Like that, what I just said was the actual quote I yelled at Brent. And he's like, fine. Okay. Guy named George will call you. So this whole video live stream could be all about me and Brent, but I just wanted to thank Brent publicly, and he's here. And yes, Alberto, always agree. I didn't know that in the beginning. That's why I got Cardone University.
So I'm just curious, when you were talking about your experience with the Shania Twain tour and getting on it, what was your first show like?
First show was in Sudbury, right, Brent? All the nerves. But you got to understand, like, Brent Barkus had been rehearsing for a year and a half. I came in at the 8-month mark. This was a very strange rehearsal situation with Mutt Lange and Shania Twain. The rehearsals were longer than most people's tours. So the first show was all the nerves. I remember it very well, and like shaking all over the place. And I remember the audience being dark and tens of thousands of people. And one side was really, really high, and the other side was short. We were in this hockey arena, and I think all of us rushed. We were playing too fast. I mean, we have clicks to keep us, but just because we were so excited and nervous. So, hey, Brent, what did you think of the first show? Brent's first show was Letterman, and mine was Divas Live on VH1. But the live show was, I'm pretty sure, was Sudbury, Canada, if I recall. I knew right then and there that God had given me something really cool. I knew it. I got a big smile on my face. I know we got COVID-19 or whatever. I'm sorry. I got a big smile on my face.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because, I've been doing these broadcasts to kind of like, everybody's at home. Everyone in the entertainment business is home right now because all the venues are closed. All of the tours are canceled. It's hard to make money as an artist right now. At least that's the mentality of it. But number one, how are you doing with the COVID virus in your music career? And number two, is it really that hard to make money, like, as an artist right now? Maybe.
Well, So I did transition. I still tour with Trans Siberian Orchestra every winter, and I hope that we will do the tour this winter. That things can get cleared up with the coronavirus. I have transitioned about a decade ago. I started speaking a lot more, and it was very interesting because I did an event with Shay. I saw Shay Nartker. Shay Nartker is my videographer. Really the one freelancer that I pay regularly, and he flies with me. So if anybody in the Midwest, he's from Ohio, has any needs for videography or photography, look up Shay Nartker. And we were in Pinehurst, North Carolina. We did an event for a government agency there where I was speaking and performing. But he and I were talking about coronavirus. So that was March 2. And he was the one that kind of was like, I'm not going to be able to travel with you. But I'm very defiant. Like when someone says, and that's very rock mentality, right? Someone says, you can't do this. I'm like, I'm going to go do that.
Right.
But then I had 6 events, 3 in March and 3 in April. I was actually going to do events with Jordan Belfort and
Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah. And Suntuity, which was the solar company that was bringing the 2 of us in. But everything got rescheduled, and it was a lot of question marks, and all 6 events got canceled. So that's when I had to realize what was really going on. And I called my sister, who's a doctor, and she had to give me the truth. And I had to be open to that I can't just be flying around. Even though I still have been pushing it, I want to still travel. And I was actually scheduled to visit my parents, and she said, no way. So I'm glad. My parents are in Chicagoland area. So I see Andrew Wiseman from Australia is here. Just want to say hello. Now, as far as when you're saying making money now, there's a lot of different strategies. I'm just going to share what I'm doing right now, which is I am contracting a bit to be stronger in the personal development, and reassessing and making a lot of changes, because I was functioning on such easy. I was being too easy. I was probably functioning on 15% of my potential, which I would love to have the problems that I had in January now, because it was really more about me not reaching out enough and not following through enough to close the deals, the events. And I think things are going to be a little bit more difficult now. But I look at it as like I've always been very scrappy and desperate. So for people to also be like, oh my gosh, now I'm scrappy and desperate, I got to get scrappy. That was and is my whole life. So as an artist, I mean, I was hired and fired every year. So I always had to have multiple fishing lines out there to catch fish. I got to tell you, I'm not feeling the effects as much as others, but I did reach out to some folks. Hey, check in on the live stream here with the Kingdom of Rock podcast, and a number of folks let me know that they had gotten let go. So that really helped me understand what's really going on outside of my own world. But for me, I was very fortunate that all 6 of the events from March and April got moved to October, right? So I do have friends that are on tours in production and other musicians that the tours got canceled, not just rescheduled. So, I didn't want to just talk too much about the negatives, but I am aware of what's going on. But I think that we should always have been fighting against all odds. And when we come out of this, keep on fighting like crazy, not just to have your bills met, but have a war chest of, if I may say, money, so that you can help your own family, you can help your neighbor. And right now, I guess I would advise folks to do what they probably should have always been doing. I look at the the finances as a blade, and there's two sides of the blade.
Mm-hmm.
One is to go forth and grab more money in your job, freelancing, whatever. But on the other side is to cut out stupid expenses. I was great at cutting out expenses. So if Brent's still here, in the band, I was kind of known as the guy that was good with money, you know, like the most frugal guy. I mean, every once in a while, somebody would go into the world of saying Roddy could be a little cheap. I never was cheap on our meals, like our group meals and tips, but you should be that person that the societal group kind of says you're being like too much, because that means you're doing the right thing. There's a purpose for not spending a bunch of money at the bar, you know, because alcohol is one of the most uppriced things on the menu. And all of that is so that you can put these little bits that absolutely add up and compound. And I have a good relationship with my accountant, and I'm very surprised as to what has happened. But I was very good at cutting out dumb expenses and saving money. But then I needed, so that was almost like a Dave Ramsey kind of a way of going through life with finances. But I needed someone else to really help me go after the top line, how to make more money. And that's how I came up across Grant Cardone and his team. So, and that's why I really enjoy the speaking part, because these organizations just have more budget and expectation of paying more than a musician. Because unfortunately, a musician gets the known musician is like that person they saw at a wedding, and or you know, somebody at church or something like that. Whereas a speaker, like a Tony Robbins or somebody that is an author, they're viewed as an expert, right?
Right.
Now there are some dingbats that are speaking that are terrible, but I was able to really, through my acting training on how to perform and through some experiences of falling flat on my face on stages in front of people, figuring out how to elicit enthusiasm and standing ovation levels of joy in the audiences. So, you know, that's what I've transitioned into, and I'm going to continue doing that while touring with Trans Siberian Orchestra. So I don't look at right now only. I'm looking at the long game of 10 years ago and 10 years going forward. Well,
so one thing that I've noticed, I've been speaking with a lot of artists. I've had about almost 100 guests on the show since I started, and it's, you know, exponentially growing. We're doing about up to 3 a day for this whole COVID virus thing. And I've noticed a lot of artists just pretty much live paycheck to paycheck. Like they don't, I would say 99% of artists live paycheck to paycheck. There's very few that have a success story where they have plenty of income, plenty of resources where, you know, if something like this happens, they can just make it just fine, you know. And Grant Cardone talks about creating your own economy that's protected from the outside. Like, he lost a lot of money because a bank went out of business. Like, it's you really are trying to control your environment so that you can be safe and protected and healthy and survive. You know, what do you think is the big hindrance for artists? Is it just the skill set that they're operating in? Is it a mindset? Like, why aren't more artists financially successful, in your opinion?
Yeah, I don't totally know. I think there's some messaging when we're growing up that money is a bad thing, maybe. And that was not the messaging I got in my family. It wasn't a focus, but it wasn't a bad thing. My parents would drive me and my sister through the area of South Barrington, which is kind of a wealthy area of the suburbs of Chicago, and just have us look at all the mansions. And they wouldn't say anything. I don't know why they did that, but I think that was just to inspire us and to see something really beautiful. And I think that I mean, yeah, but outside of not saying anything, they also did say some things, which things like a car is to get you from point A to point B. It's not to show off to other people and things like that, or all those kind of things that you would hear from like grandma or something were very strong in my family. But they certainly did not say that people that had money were crooked, or I never heard blame, like I'm blaming the government or anything like that. In fact, my parents both, sharing something a little privately, they both came from good situations in the Philippines. So I'm both Chinese and Filipino. Mm-hmm. And they actually had their land run over by bad people that with force and guns. And it's a bad area of the Philippines now.
Wow.
And they told me, like, we actually have land there. And I'm like, well, should we go claim it? They're like, you don't want to go there, and they gave up a lot to have the option to, what you said, control your environment in America. So I would ask Brent, Brent's got to run, how he viewed me during the Shania Twain years, because I didn't totally know what I was doing, so I was just going off of my of who I genuinely was, with all my insecurities and immaturities. But I will say that my mindset was, okay, here's a multi six-figure situation with this first tour. I'm going to keep pretending like I have nothing, like I did 2 years ago, and then at the end of this tour, I'm going to see what's happening. That served me greatly, because I had a war chest of money. I had won a small lottery by being a part of a Shania Twain tour. Mm-hmm. So then what I learned from that was that I felt stronger and more powerful, if I may say, with the humility in there. And then I said, well, let's keep on going. So I think the biggest investment one can make is yourself. I heard that from, I think, Dave Ramsey. So I was able to realize I can make money. So if it was $200 here, $20,000 there, I would collect it and hold on to it. And typically I put them into basically mutual funds, index funds is what I did. Now, I did all kinds of things. I was a choreographer and a dance coordinator for party dances. So I would teach people how to do the Macarena, the chicken dance, and the YMCA in public, like at trade shows. And there was a guy who is my Jewish mentor, Drew Matilsky, and he just needed someone to organize these women and do these things at his trade show events. Mm-hmm. And so I took that job. It actually paid really well. It was thousands of dollars a weekend. So, but I just was generating money, and I always felt like I was in trouble. Like I'm not in the clear at all. I need to do more and more. And so then I was fortunate to join with Lone Star, and fortunate to join with a band called Shadazy and Jessica Andrews. Those bands are not as well known anymore. And then the Shania tour came along again. So then once it's compounding in the investments, but also compounding just in your own life, then just keep on laying it down, I guess. Keep on going, which is what I've been doing. So I'm very surprised what happened, actually. It was a conservative way of doing things. I'll tell you that.
Well, what about, like, what would you say to artists that, they struggle with income? They're like, and not only artists, I mean, there's a lot of people in this COVID virus, all the support staff, in for all these productions and, roadies and lighting people and, people that sell merch, people that are booking things, everybody is like taking a big hit in income. What would you say would be a good way to get your income up to a higher level so that you'll have more resources in the future?
Well, I'm not really an expert on finances, but what came to my mind when you asked that question is to check yourself, and I have to check myself with what I'm saying and or the tone if I'm complaining. If I'm
right.
If I got the sarcasm going like, oh, well, he just all that. It's I think we know it, and that tone and that vibe, like Steve I talked about vibration, is not conducive to attracting better work situations and better finances.
Yes.
So once you're complaining, and let's say I'm blaming and complaining, it's the same thing. Something outside of myself, like the government, or that person's successful just because his father was successful. Sometimes that's said in the music industry.
Sure.
That actually is conducive to you losing your power, losing your ability to get more work, losing your ability to bring in income. So there's two options with complaining. One is just to go silent, go dark, just don't do it. And the other is to say the positive. So that's why I love the 10Xers, the 10X Nation, is that those guys will jump on and they'll do their crazy 10X hand signal or whatever, but they're smiling and they do the fist pump thing, which is, I love it. I feel the vibe is better. That is conducive to getting more work and getting more income coming in. Cardone University, one of the first lessons is to have that big winning smile, like all the time.
Right.
Why? Because it starts everything off with agreeableness, harmony, and even in my music, the only reason why, I'm sometimes made fun of a little bit. Just, I don't drink, right? I don't curse. When I'm really, really upset, sometimes and hungry, I'll curse, but in general. And so it's almost like I'm viewed as like a softie or something like that. But I've got a vibe going that's really positive, and everyone knows it. And people do want to hire me. And sometimes people want to hire me just because they want me to influence their children. So a riff off of that is that 3 of my touring jobs, all of them were worth over 6 figures. Mm-hmm. I got because there was a violinist that was there before me who frankly was better than me skill-wise, but they were not able to handle their alcohol. Mm-hmm. And the alcohol stories in all industries are legend of people not being able to bring in income anymore and being let go. And what happened is that I'm out there sending out my stuff and feeling all silly, like, hey, if you ever need me, Mr. Kanye West, if you ever need me again, Miss Celine Dion, I'm here. And then when that person got themselves into trouble, which I feel really bad for them, I really do.
Right.
I'm not wanting to profiteer over someone else's situation, but these tours are big businesses. They're making tens of millions of dollars. So, and they would love to give some of those crumbs of that to their employees or the people that they hire. And I want to be there. And 3 of them, I probably shouldn't mention which bands, but that happened. And that they knew that I was a person that was not so much a softie or too clean. It wasn't that, but I was considered a professional. So they wanted me to come in. Can you learn these 14 songs in just 2 weeks? Which is kind of impossible, but I'd be like, yes.
Right.
I'm
everything.
I am going to break the code a little bit and say, yes, Mr. Kevin Costner, I will learn 14 songs in 2 weeks, and then I'm on the stage with him in Niagara Falls Casino there. And that outside of money, then what's happening backstage with a Kevin Costner concert or even any Kevin Costner situation? Well, prime minister that, dictator this, president that is backstage. So the closer you can get to power and success, the more powerful and successful you can be. So I saw somebody comment, artists play for passion, kind of saying that that's different than money. And I want to say that I would say that I do play for passion and the vibe of Herculean awesomeness. I love being a part of it. That is not separate from getting your money right, because getting your money right means you can take care of your family, you can take care of your neighbors, you can occasionally tip somebody $100 bill and just both of you are crying at the situation. Mm-hmm. That's a rock star moment right there. So if I may just throw some positivity out into the internet world, that making money is a good thing. What we don't like is arrogance and jerks.
Right.
Just because somebody's making money, that person can be an awesome person.
Well,
I gave a thumbs up and I saw myself. I said, that looks really cheesy, but double thumbs up. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, one thing I really like about Grant Cardone is he did help me change my mindset to realize that everything in my life is my fault and my responsibility. And it's not saying that like if bad things happen to me that I caused it. If I don't acknowledge that I am the only person that can fix it and prevent it and prepare for the future, I've given away my power to my feelings, to other people's expectations of me, to their other people's limitations of me, you know? And so what has really shifted in my life, the reason I moved to Los Angeles, the reason I'm meeting awesome people like Roddy Chong is because I shifted the way that I looked at my life. And life isn't happening to me. I'm happening to life. And I am causing the change. I'm causing I'm attracting the people into my life because I believe I deserve good things. And it's not because I'm a great person. It's because, you know, I believe that every human being deserves good things. And we just have to change the way that we view that, because we've kind of been raised in so many people have been raised to have that mindset where they feel like they have to get other people's approval and other people's have control and power over them. You know, you got to get rid of that. What would you say to speak to that?
Yes, I have something I want to speak to that, but I also glanced out of the corner and I see a question from Jermaine Nixon.
Yeah.
And he says, I play free shows, but I have to take care of my family. How do I charge?
That's a good one.
I mean, it's a great question because every musician, a lot of people, you know, people that do coding, graphic arts. Off the top, I wanted to say this, Jermaine, is that you need to get better skills on how to sell yourself and market yourself. And those are two different things. So I would like to recommend, I know that Grant Cardone is doing a 30-day free of Cardone University. So I think it's cardoneuniversity.com, but you can just Google that. And Jermaine, and the truth is that some of his people might text you and or email you or call you to try to sell you a little bit. But I got to tell you that there's so much content in Cardone University that even just the first module, you'll start to get better skills on how do I charge. We're talking about Grant Cardone so much, but I don't care. I think it's really funny, actually, because I was going to say that Grant Cardone taught me this, Jermaine, that you have to lose some of your old friends and contacts. Okay. So I went to a church growing up called Willow Creek, which had a great influence on my life. And I still watch those services. And those friends of mine are awesome. But they also knew me and know me as the really nice guy, Roddy, with that smile. He'll play my wedding. He'll play at church. He'll do all these things for free. And he's so funny. We just love that Roddy guy. And I'm like, you love me? Okay, I'll do your next thing. And I would like to make $200 somehow. So I didn't have those skills, Mr. Jeremy. His comment went away, but
Jermaine Nixon.
Yeah, Jermaine Nixon. Once I moved to Los Angeles, I mean, I was already getting paid and stuff, and I mean, the Jars of Clay thing was like the first thing where I was getting paid. So, and all the tours were paying, and but once I moved to Los Angeles, I was able to just kind of drop the old situation and get to a completely new situation. And one of my mentors is a guy named Randy Wallace. Randy Wallace wrote the movie Braveheart, and he also speaks sometimes. And that's where we met, in Washington, D.C. And he told me, people don't value what they don't pay for. So Jermaine, know this, that people are not valuing your talent that you're giving, your time. They're not valuing you. I mean, these might be people that you consider friends, but they do need to pay you something, because they'll go to Cheesecake Factory, eat a bunch of food, and forget about it, and they'll have no problem spending $100 for 3 people at Cheesecake Factory, which I love Cheesecake Factory, by the way. But I'm kind of saying they're going to spend it somewhere, Jermaine. And especially if you've practiced and you over-deliver on your value, and you play the songs that they want to hear, you show up early, and you look professional. You're not stumbling in there late. If you're going to be professional in the way that you do things, you can give more value, and then you can actually ask for more money, more pay. And I learned that also from Grant. Well, when they talk money, I talk value. So if someone says, well, how much are you? And I say, before we get to that, we're going to absolutely get to that necessary fact. I'm Asian. That's very different. I'll play music that is upbeat and get your entire company elevated and engaged. I have these 10 testimonials that are just like your company from CEOs that say Roddy's teachings have lasted for 3 years and changed our company. So I'm talking about, so now the person is thinking about these facts, and I'm showing them value points of me, and they kind of forgot about the question, how much are you? Okay. And we can now, from a different perspective, figure out this number. But I don't think you should be doing things for free, Jermaine, just for your own sense of self-worth. Okay. I could riff off of that forever, but do you remember what you were asking me before, Matt? I kind of went off on it.
Well, yeah, we were. It's kind of related to.
You were kind of saying what's my fault and my responsibility. I don't care about what's going on out there, right?
Well, it's not so much not caring. Like, we're aware of what's happening, but you can't. It's about personal control. You can't change anything that's somebody else has control over. So, like, if somebody comes up and punches you in the face, unprovoked, you didn't deserve it, you have to look at that as your fault, or they have control over you, right? So you have to, so anything that happens to you is your fault, in the sense of you're the only person that can solve that problem for yourself. And a lot of times people, they get brain locked because they're like, oh, somebody hurt me, or somebody's taking advantage, or the economy's falling apart around me. The president's not doing his job the way that I want him to. You know, it's the virus is making all my jobs go away. Like, oh, that's somebody else's has power over your life. You can't do anything about that. But what really changed in my life is when I realized that I had power to change things. I just don't let other things that happen around me make the decisions for me. I make the decisions for myself.
Yes. I'm going to riff off of that because this is my journal. It says 007 on there.
Yeah, nice.
And these are the notes I took on the Grant Cardone live stream yesterday. And he talked about something in the very beginning about the steps of getting through a loss. And that's what you were talking about. And this can be found online. It's basic psychology of the 5 steps of grief. But basically, number 1 is denial. So me literally denying that coronavirus is going to affect my life at all. The second step after denial is angry, being angry and having anger. I would actually say that having anger at the loss of a job, loss of a loved one or a spouse, divorce, or things, anger is part of it. To be able to feel that is okay. But like a log kind of floating on a river, if you're standing on the edge of a river and a log goes by, that's kind of like anger. It's going to be there and it feels terrible, and it's actually going to go down the river, and then you'll see deer across the river, or something different will come along.
Yeah. So
anger is part of getting through a loss. And then there's bargaining, where let's say there's a loss of a loved one, and that's where you're pleading with God. God, I'll do anything to have this my grandma, come out from her coma, and you're bargaining, trying to make sense of the situation. Then you get into a phase of depression, of deep sadness, of you're not yourself. And then lastly, you get on the other side of it, which is accepting the reality. So it's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then you accept. And that's when you're able to recognize and assess, this is what the problem is, and this is what I'm going to do now. So that's where you are able, that's what you were talking about. You went through a lot of those things. Sometimes it takes longer than others, but the faster that we get through that, to get to a place of acceptance of the loss, and then it empowers yourself to be able to make those choices like you were talking about. So I don't know, just want to share that. Cardone shared that yesterday, and then I've got notes here from my acting teacher, Joanne Barron. And then going backwards, I've got notes from Steve Vai from the Kingdom of Rock podcast.
I want a copy of those notes. That was a great talk. Steve dropped some awesome information on that one.
And the reason why I write things down is that putting pen to paper is like being an artist. It's kind of you've got your paintbrush kind of, and you're writing your font, and you're not on a screen, and you're able to have your own thoughts interacting with this stylus and this paper, parchment. And it gets into your brain a lot differently than our phones. So I'm not too much of a fan of the phone, even though it's a necessary device.
What would you say about the power of words, like writing and speaking and thinking?
I think the power of words, everything is connected to everything else. So you were kind of saying, like, how can we get better jobs and better income so that we can either dig our way out of the problem that we're in now, or when the problem comes again, we're in a better position. Everything is connected to everything else. So I don't do live streams. I'm going to do a few of them. I'm going to do Dr. V's here, and then Mr. Biz, I'm going to do his, and a few others. But I did get a ring light, right? I did get a better mic. You helped me get the Ethernet cable and the connector. So by going extra, we learn. and we grow and we become better and we become more powerful. And that's how we're able to gain more and extract more from the world, because there's a lot there to be extracted that is kind of waiting for us. As far as words, what that means is to look up the definition of a word. There's many times I'm using a word incorrectly. Mm-hmm. And I will definitely go to the definition of a word and then try to use it, not like in a sentence, like how they taught us in school, but just use it in my everyday talk. That the better your words, the better your mind works, the more professional not you seem, but the more professional that you are. Your brain is a functioning, working brain. If I've got 7 hours to view Tiger King, then I've got 7 hours to read a book, write in my journal, and look up a couple definitions and start using those. I did watch Tiger King, by the way. Did you hear about it?
I've heard about it. I haven't watched it yet.
See, this is a problem. I have been the one that is marketing for Tiger King. Like, I would say 100 people are watching it. This dysfunctional tragedy, okay, that is a bunch of weeds. There's no roses here, but it's a train wreck you can't stop watching. So I did watch that, but I love writing. I love reading. I get my news through the Wall Street Journal. And the reason why I don't watch TV news, I watch about 30 minutes of TV news. I watched none of it before this, but just is again, the vibe and the tone is very scary. But when I'm reading the paper, I'm able to, again, hold parchment, something that's not a screen, and I'm able to go deeper with the words and get more of the story. And then also choose and not be so alarmed and put into a vibe of lack, a vibe of I'm a victim and I can't help myself and I'm screwed. I don't like that vibe.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
I already had that vibe. I had that vibe when I lost my first girlfriend, had that vibe when I lost my job with Jars of Clay. We don't have to go back to that well that has no water. So I'm sharing with you things that have worked with me, and actually working with actual paper. I keep showing these things. I got all the things on this desk, but I got a book recommendation.
Oh, nice.
How to Break Up with Your Phone by Catherine Price. Just get this book. It's $6 with your next Amazon purchase. And the book I'm reading right now is called, I froze.
No, you're good.
Deep Work by Cal Newport. And there's a cover and a glare because I got this book from the library. Okay. So this book is awesome and talks about how our phones and all the social media distracts us, but there's a lagging attention. Basically, you don't just jump to something that you need to focus on and you're 100% there. Part of your brain is lagging back to the TV show you're watching or what was on this wonderful, very tantalizing Instagram. So what he's kind of saying is his name's Cal Newport in this book, Deep Work, Cal Newport. What he's saying is try to, when you want to get into your focus time, he's even saying just 2 hours a day. Don't get into that time from a place of screens and distraction. Wake up, do some things of getting yourself into a focus state and then focus and do it. And so I am, like I said, everything is connected to everything else. And I'm interacting with a lot of words to speak more proficiently, to gain knowledge and to implement it. So words are super important. And looking up the definition takes 3 seconds. A word that was happening a lot a couple of weeks ago was the word draconian. Did you hear the word draconian?
Draconian, yeah.
Draconian. I didn't know what it meant. I thought it was something to do with dragons. So I was like, yeah, cool, dragons. But it means with great severity, like too much. Like you would say it's. We would think in America that's too much, right? So basically, China was draconian on their people, but they were able to stop this virus a lot better than we seem to be able to be doing. I mean, we'll see, but two totally different countries, man. Two totally different. But the word draconian, I had never heard that word before, and I want to be draconian on myself. Like, I don't care what other people think about me. Thank you for all the encouragements in the chat here, but it's really about what I want to be draconian on myself sometimes. I mean, if you're beating yourself up too much all the time, that's a different problem. But I tend to, like, I guess, have too healthy of a self-esteem and go, I can ride, you know, like, and you know, that's what I've been kind of thinking. Like, you know, I do have some funds. I'm fine. I can ride this out plus some years. And it was Grant yesterday in a live stream that said, money will lie to you. Your actions will not lie to you. Your actions will bring out the truth, but money's going to lie to you. And I was like, yep, let's go. I got to get my disciplines going again.
Well, like, one thing that I've been doing to try to, like, change my trajectory in my life is anything that brings me fear, I try to cut it off. And anything that inspires me to have courage, I try to welcome it into my life. So that's people, information, anything. I want to be, you know, I'm an indestructible human spirit, right? Like, I want to die with my hair on fire. I want to die like on, like, what's that Adam Sandler movie where he's the guy, the rich guy, was up on the mountain and he died with the flag frozen to the top of the mountain.
I did see that one.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I'm laughing at you and at what you're saying, but I'm also laughing at these comments. I'm learning about live streaming, guys, and I want to read the comments, but I also want to talk and I want to listen to you. So talk about a distracting situation. Sorry, go ahead. So he died with the flag.
Yeah, and the idea being, like, whatever, like, the media, especially the media, and it's a profit-based media. They want you even all the tech companies, they want you in their ecosystem. And so we have basic elements in our psychological design or spiritual design, you know, where fear and envy and lust and all these base kind of emotions and, you know, part of the human experience. And so they know how to seduce those things to keep our eyes on the TV, on in the Facebook feed, in the, you know, reading these types of publications and things. And I've just tried to be really strict about chopping off that negative fear-based. I don't want to be I don't want to be part of that game. I want to put things in my mind that feed my courage and inspire me and attract people. Yeah. Would you say that's kind of worked for you in your career?
Oh, I've been crazy. I've been draconian about that.
There you go.
Really quickly, nice. Everyone, like 7 people, Roger
Mr.
Littlepage,
Deeds.
Stephen, Jermaine again, they're all saying it's Mr. Deeds. So yeah, I guess recommended viewing from just Siskel and Ebert here.
If you want to waste some time, that's a good way to waste it. That would be fun.
Yeah, I'm a very sensitive person. The truth is everyone is sensitive. Mm-hmm. And when I don't know, people would make fun of me. It was interesting because people don't really make fun of me anymore. But in the beginning of my career, even when I had the Shania Twain on the resume, I would kind of be poked at, and I was inviting that on. But I had to learn about how to be a more dignified man and act more like a man and stop acting like a boy. Right. But I'm saying 2 things at the same time. So what were you asking in particular again?
As far as like choosing,
cutting off,
choosing what you ingest and what surrounds you, people and media and everything.
In my speaking events, I sometimes share about how I had a Sony Walkman and I would just listen to Tony Robbins tapes all the time.
I love Tony.
Cassettes and CDs. In fact, there was one, I was running the Chicago Marathon, and I would listen to a bunch of cassettes I found at the library. And the reason why those cassettes are at the library is that nobody has cassette players anymore, or they didn't even then. But I found this book called Pour Your Heart Into It by Howard Schultz. It was the first Starbucks book. And he reads the unabridged version. So I would just run and I would feel like Howard Schultz is my friend. Howard Schultz is cheering me on. The creator of Starbucks likes me. Right. Howard is my friend. And I'd be running it. Look, I even say like, we're running together, and he's sharing his story of where he came from nothing and how he almost had his small company ripped away from him from the investors, and how he had to call Bill Gates and feel like a schmuck and ask for help and courage if he could borrow and leverage some of Bill Gates' power so that he could retain his own company. And so I really cut out negativity, and especially if somebody was like making fun of another person, I would feel bad, and I would kind of get away from that. And sometimes it was not lonely, but it was I would be doing my own thing quite a bit. Yeah. But I also I did have a bunch of good people I've always kind of grown up with, and even now I have a new group of people that are good people that are surprisingly, overwhelmingly encouraging. But I want to tell you something. I had listened to the Howard Schultz audio of Pour Your Heart Into It probably like 40 times, like more than 20. Like we're talking crazy land. Right. It was like music to me. And long story short, I was in a Starbucks in Winnipeg, and Howard Schultz walked in. Oh, wow. And I was frozen. Like I was so nervous. Kind of like how you and I feel around Michael Sweet. Yeah, right. We get nervous. Yeah. But even more so. And so I actually didn't move. I just froze and then then he left. And then I went up to the barista and I was like, was that Howard Schultz? And she's like, yes, can you believe he was here? And so I that's where I was mentioning before in the grieving thing, that's the bargaining thing where I'm not even accepting the reality and going to talk to him. I kind of made a weird, like, I'm going to talk to the barista, right? But long story long, I ran out the door and chased and looked and never found him. But I found the most expensive hotel along where I saw him. And I went to the front desk and I asked if I could leave a message for Howard Schultz. And they said yes. They didn't know who he was. So they put me on the guest phone. And I just left a terrible phone number. I left my phone number. I invited him to a Shania show, and I told him how much the book meant to me. And he called me back. Nice. Brent Barkus left, but Brent was in the locker room in Winnipeg when Howard Schultz called me. And then I brought Mutt Lang, that was Shania's former husband, with me. Mm-hmm. You know Mutt, right? Yeah. Def Leppard. Produced a lot of great records. Yes. And so he and I went to talk with Howard Schultz, and Howard and I are friends today. I have his mobile number, but I actually don't really bother him. If I ever want to talk to him, I go through his assistant, Nancy. Mm-hmm. So really quick, just wanted to say hi to Leah and John. Which SB? Oh, Super Bowl they're talking about. So, yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I did not know that you played at the Super Bowl. So tell me about that story. Honestly, there are other performances I like more. Right. But surreal. Again, so nervous you can barely function. Like, I think everyone was nervous. Everyone is nervous. So, I mean, it was strange. Like, I looked into the audience and I saw Metallica sitting there. Oh my gosh. Like, to get a ticket to the Super Bowl is very odd. Like, it's not the tickets are so expensive that everybody there is just like a baller, is like a famous person. So, right. So performing there again, like you're hearing me blank out because I'm just like, how do you describe what happened there? You know?
Right.
I'll tell you a quick story so the hotel was the Marriott in San Diego the night before.
Right.
And the lobby was just famous people. Like, I remember 3 guys, and when Jam Master Jake, Run DMC was in the freaking lobby. So I go up to Run DMC, and next to Run DMC was MC Hammer. Okay,
Oh,
so
wow.
I loved MC Hammer growing up.
Yeah, can't touch this.
And I had a tear in my. I was a total fan. I went up to Hammer. I went up to Hammer and I said, "I have VHS cassettes of you dancing, and I just wanted to be a part of your dance team and tour, and that's kind of what I'm doing now. And a lot of that is from you." He looked at me. He just gave me the full back. He didn't say anything. He didn't give me a cold shoulder. He gave me the full back. And I was like, wow. And I remember I was like, if I'm ever in a position to encourage somebody, I am never going to act like that. So sometimes you'll see me talking to people because I just don't want to be that person, even though I'm not perfect at it. That's one of my Super Bowl stories. Wow. I still love MC Hammer. I got to tell you.
Story though.
But then there was another situation of backstage that there was a group of people. Tony from okay, so there was Gwen, right? Gwen Stefani.
Yeah, Gwen Stefani. Yeah.
Was in what band?
No Doubt.
Tony from No Doubt.
Oh yeah.
And then John Bon Jovi.
Oh wow!
And myself, and I didn't know what I was really doing there. I was so nervous, but I was just in this little circle.
Yeah.
And Gwen was so. I mean, she's just like introducing herself and being really sweet. So, and Tony was also. I mean, John Bon Jovi also, but not as much so. So there's a lot of things that were really, really great about Super Bowl. It was almost more like how people know about that. It's more about the reality that I was able to perform then when they were doing music and not so much just the dancers and the tracks. Right now is what they seem to be doing with Super Bowl.
But you played an even bigger audience in Germany, like live audience, right?
Yeah, that was with Trans Siberian Orchestra. That was some really rock star stuff where we did 2 shows in Buffalo, New York, and then a private jet landed in Berlin, rehearsed, and then did the show midnight there. So we did 3 shows in less than 24 hours. The crowd there was 2 million people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like who has stories like that? That is quite an experience. So like, what's that energy, that feeling of energy when you're out there on the stage? Do you just black out and just don't even know what happened when it's over? Or do you really like vibe? Like, is it a direct connection, or how do you blend that without freaking out?
Well, that's a technique actually to make it smaller. And I don't always do it. And that's why I said the first Shania show, shaking and nervous like crazy. When I first performed with Celine Dion, shaking and nervous like crazy. Super Bowl, shaking and nervous like crazy. And Berlin, New Year's Eve, shaking and nervous like crazy. So in order to control your environment, you got to make it smaller and do the work. The crowd size, the temperature, how it was colder that day, all the distractions, all that matters is your work. And we had rehearsed our songs. So you got to focus on your work, and that is going to get you through that performance. Otherwise, you're just going to mess up. You're going to actually literally fall down because your coordination as you're even moving across the stage is a little bit off now because you're thinking outside of the work. You're thinking, how am I being perceived right now?
Right.
Or look at all these people. I wonder what they think of me. Or look at all these people. Wow. What does all these people have to do with me doing what I'm doing? Whether that's playing violin, whether that's reaching out to somebody that could be a client for me. All these things out here have nothing to do with the work that you're doing. So whenever I do any kind of a work, even for 15 minutes, I'm so happy and proud of myself, because it's hard to do. It's easy to be distracted.
So
for me,
the circle of attention on stage, right? You've got roadies, you have techs, you have people standing on the side stage watching you. You've got the audience. Like what is your sphere of I guess acknowledgement or like interaction on a stage as big as like Trans Siberian Orchestra, Shania Twain? Like how do you control it in your brain?
Well, with Trans Siberian Orchestra, we rehearse a lot. Sometimes people are like, "Can I come backstage?" I'm like, "You would die. You would be killed if you came backstage. There's too many moving pieces." So we rehearse a lot just for safety. And Shania was similar. Like we over rehearsed. I actually don't think there's such thing as over rehearsing. I hear with actors sometimes they talk about, I don't want to over rehearse this so it can still stay fresh. I don't think there is over rehearsing. I mean, you do rehearse it to a point and then you stop rehearsing and you actually do the work. But socially, I'm kind of an extrovert, so I try to remember all the names of the roadies. So there's about 90 of them.
Wow.
So it's a whole city. Yeah. So it's 20 trucks and 10 tour buses for Trans Siberian Orchestra. I think this year was 19 trucks, but I mean, those are the sizes of of really only like Taylor Swift kind of sizes. So it's enormous. So yeah, a lot of those crew guys are my friends. And again, it's about the vibe and the spirit of the person, and that's how I get along with some of them. If they've got a negative vibe, that's totally fine. We just don't have much to talk about.
but during the performance, is there like a limited amount of people that you try to focus on? Like, are you just in your own space, or do you have like interaction with the band and like what are you aware of when you're performing?
Wow, that's such a great question, because the first take of that question is that you got to be aware of everybody, because we're moving around a lot. We bring an 80s rock show into the year 2020.
Right.
So, and I do my jumps very influenced by David Lee Roth. So
you got the splits.
Do the split, that looks corny anywhere else, like at the mall or something, but on that stage, for some reason, people think it's so cool, and I enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
There are times when you have to be aware of kind of a bigger peripheral. There's just a lot going on, but then there's times when it's very, very small. And that's kind of when there's a jump involved. I've got to lock in my belt because I'm going up on a lift, things that are technically necessary to saving my life. Right. So outside of what you're asking, you do want to be in a state of flow, though. You do want to. So I am focused on what I'm doing and taking those actions, but I'm not thinking and cerebrally doing anything. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this. This is what I'm doing, and my awareness is bigger. My awareness is bigger, or my awareness is smaller, but I'm still always doing it. It's a very physical, not knowing what you're doing. The moment I am cerebral about anything, like what does that person think of me? Oh, I recognize that person. It can take me out of the flow.
It's like jarring almost sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, for the performer.
Yeah.
But the performer has control over that. Like, it's basically what we were saying before. Like, if there's a negativity, just get rid of it as quick as possible.
Yeah.
La 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 la. It's not here. Blah 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 blah. So same thing. Like a distraction. Okay, let's get back to this. I'm playing. This is what I'm doing, and it happens very quickly. And that's just so that the show is effective. the show is effective for the audience. I'll tell you a really quick mistake a lot of musicians do when they're performing is that they'll focus on the front row, and especially if there's an attractive person there. Hey,
right.
The reason why that's a problem is that you're alienating 98% of your audience. So I learned I watched a video on Garth Brooks a long time ago that he looks out into the back rows. Okay. And so I have a take on that, is that I kind of feel like almost like Iron Man has that energy thing that I have I'm blasting out power from my core to the audience in the back row, and then through the back wall.
Right.
Okay? So the point with that is that I'm able to perform and provide inspiration and power to all the people in the front, but I'm shooting for the people in the back, because the people in the back get alienated if you're only looking down. And so it's a common problem. It's a small way of thinking, though, because the reason why you look at the people in the front is because you can see them. But you have to have the awareness of, I'm going to alienate the rest of the audience when I do that.
That sounds like a martial arts training a little bit when you say projecting it through the back wall. Like when you punch or kick, you're kicking through things, through like board, to get power.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that is the same.
Yeah, cool, man. That's super cool. I've never thought of like projecting your artistic energy out like that. That's a really amazing concept there.
Yeah, and you have to try it. You have to try it live. I do it with my speaking, and people wonder, how do you get those results? That's one technique of hundreds that I use, especially with speaking, to decimate a crowd. But I got to tell you, I like being in the crowd and being decimated by somebody who's a leader and someone that knows what they're doing. So, well,
we're getting close to an hour and 30 minutes here. The time flies when you're having fun. If you want to, maybe we could answer some questions.
Okay.
Out here on the side. If you guys have some questions for Roddy, just throw them up in the chat in the comments right now, and we'll address them as they come up.
Okay. Becky, really quick, I want to just mention that Becky and I know each other from Facebook, and there was an offer that came up on Masterclass, which is a video training. And I wanted to see like Howard Schultz on there. I wanted to see Bob Iger from Disney on the Masterclass, and they were selling it for $180, 2 for 1. And I just put out on Facebook, can anyone jump in this thing with me? And if you could scroll it back. So yeah, it was Becky that we split that one. And so we're both able to view Masterclass, even though I haven't seen any of the Masterclasses yet.
Well, do you want to read you this question here?
Sure.
Okay. So Becky asked, in today's short attention span world filled with advertisers vying for our attention, what do you think is the best way for individuals, groups, small businesses to stand out? So like everybody's putting it out there. How do you stand out from the crowd?
Well, I think there are other people that are better at me than this to explain that. But right now, what I have done is that I have been like the turtle that's gone into his shell, and I've made my world really small, and I'm working on my personal brand and personal development and strengthening and empowering myself. But there are a bunch of people on this chat here, and that's simply because I reached out to each one of you individually. So how can you be on a live stream and have, a great group of people on there? I literally just for hours yesterday, and I had a great time. Becky, I had a great time reaching out to each and every one. In the wording of it, I said, this is what's happening, and I would love to answer your question live. And then I reminded a lot of people this morning. And all that took about 6 hours of work. And, most people aren't willing to do that. So that's one way of many. I would say by any means necessary, get your name and your brand out there. And this is the Kingdom of Rock podcast. And one of the best bands for getting their brand out there was and is Kiss. So I would say study Kiss Coffin, right? And Some people don't like them because of that whole subject of money. I really like what they're doing. I really like what they have done, and they've kind of earned it. And Matt, what do you think? What I was saying?
Well, I
reached out to everyone individually. Most of Matt's guests have not been willing to do that. Nothing against anyone, just that's what I did. So my words got out.
That's not a very rock star thing of you to do, Roddy. I think it's a different way of looking at people. And, I think that the people that are here today are amazing. They're interacting with you. They're excited to be here. And it's because you've taken a personal interest in them, and you've brought them value, and you're an encouragement and an inspiration to them, not just because you're an artist, because you're a beautiful spirit, and you project that out to people. And I think really just trying to be the best you that you can be to other people is really, like, that's what's different. Think about all these funny videos, and they pull you into their product, or, like, what are all the little tricks and gimmicks and stuff? Don't do that. Like think of all the problems in the world that we could solve with personal interaction. Like let's say the homeless problem. That's a big one, right? Maybe the reason that we're not able to solve the homeless problem as quickly as we'd like to is because there's not people out there on the street having a one-on-one interaction and caring about the people out there on the street. They want to make a policy, or they want to legislate, or they want to, they want somebody else to do it because it's a messy job, right?
Very much so.
But it's a messy job to text a bunch of people and say, hey, I'm going to be on a live stream, right? It's a messy job to give your most valuable resource, time, to other people, to invest in their lives and to care about them. Like everything costs, but if you spend it on the coolest thing in the world, which is other people, that's kind of like somebody said a long time ago, love your neighbors yourself, right? Like, there's some value to that. There's a lot of value to that.
Yeah.
And, it's I think that's what makes you stand out, is what I would say.
What you said right there, it's not selfish, it's self-care. So I enjoy reaching out to people, and I guess it was a little bit self-care because I wanted to say hello to people that some of them I don't even know outside of social media.
Yeah.
But I was going to say that when I did reach out to people, I tried to use their first name and spell it correctly. And all those little techniques of people skills I learned from a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Yeah, that's a great book.
So Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I've also read that over 10 times. And I think if you, Becky, or anyone, you use your brand, your James Jacoby brand, your Rebecca Moore brand, your name, who you are, and take in all the data from the good books, and then implement that, you come out with this unique, so I do the Roddy Chong vibe. I'm very influenced by Grant Cardone, but you don't see me acting like him, but I'm very influenced by Grant Cardone. So, but I'm Roddy Chong, who was very influenced also by rock music, which is why I'm here. So, and then I did put a positive spin on everything. Really quick, I did learn to smile, because when I was first playing in front of people, I would be like intense because I was nervous, and this is very serious. I'm playing violin for you people, and I'd be so intense. But then people would be like, you look so angry. You look angry. Are you angry? Right. And I realized, they're like, why don't you smile more? And that would make me mad. Why don't you smile more? And then I actually thought, people want me to smile. I like smiling. And then I would just do it. And honestly, the jobs and the money from those jobs started rolling in. And people say, I love that Roddy smiling. I'm like, did you know what I played was actually hard? But, people want to be lifted up. And I didn't realize that my frowny, pissed off face was kind of stopping people from having joy. that they were living cathartically through me as I played this sonorous violin. And so I'm going to smile while I play now. Well, I've been doing it for a long time.
I need to learn that lesson, because like, you think, especially as a metal artist, you're like, man, I got to be like, like,
it's confusing.
Yeah. And it's like, but smiling is kind of like the most beautiful part of the human spirit.
Yeah.
Like that's what really, and that's really the highest level of confidence. If you're just smiling and like that is like the highest.
Yeah.
It's one thing to have a stiff upper lip, and be like, I'm gonna rock this out, man. And serious is cool. Yeah. I mean, you probably have a serious face when you're playing. I mean, I saw that picture of you jumping and doing
intensity.
The split.
Intense. Yeah.
There was some intensity to that, so it's not, if you were smiling there, that might be a little crazy. Like,
yeah. 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 You learn when to do it and when to not. Okay. So we got through one question and it took 1 hour.
Okay. Let's see. I did hear a question, a Trans Siberian question about what is your favorite Trans Siberian Orchestra song to play?
Probably Wizards in Winter. Wizards in Winter is the famous song that was with the lights going off of the houses.
Yeah.
The Tesla Model X, if you hit the ornament button, there's a holiday button, and what will come up will be Wizards in Winter, and then the car will do a dance that Elon Musk chose Wizards in Winter. One of the composers, Bob, is an awesome person. And then whenever that song comes up in the show, the crowd, we all lift up. And so you can feel that. It's a lot of fun and a lot of fire always. That's a very pyro heavy song. So Wizards in Winter, it's a hit.
I saw two questions that are kind of related. One, there was somebody that was saying, what would you say to someone that is 50 years old and just learning how to play violin? And the other question is, do you give music lessons or do any activity with kids that dream to build a career in music? And I would like to say that I'm 49 years old and I'm just starting my music career. So, like, don't be discouraged out there if you're 50 and you're just getting started. But go ahead, Roddy.
I think that when we're a little bit older than a 4-year-old, there's a lot of responsibilities. So it does take tremendous discipline to practice and get a teacher that's good, not just some person that plays violin at church, but actually a violin teacher. And then you kind of got to practice 30 minutes a day. There's only one time to do that. It's in the morning. So I don't know if that person that wants to play violin, it really doesn't matter what age, but when they're younger, their minds are being more formed and there's less distraction. A parent can impose their will more on a child. So when you're an adult, just know you're going to have to exercise more discipline, not regular discipline. And I'm not saying discipline like 6 hours, but to actually say, I'm not going to have anything else going on. And for 30, 35 minutes, I'm going to work on this violin thing only. It's difficult to do that kind of practice with anything, but that's what gets the results. And it's definitely been done. Just the consistency is more important than how long you do the practice. Focused 30 minutes is a lot better than a distracted 3 hours here and there. So that's really for anything. As far as me inspiring youngsters, I'm willing to. I'm not really sure how.
Have you ever thought of like a membership site or a course or something for young people?
Yeah, I was just talking about that with Dr. V and Dr. Vong. What I've been doing is very private. It's $300 an hour. And then some folks have paid me like 10 grand to help them with their speech and get them presentation ready. If anybody wants to reach out to me, we'll totally work something out that works out in your favor as far as me being able to help you in your specific way. But you're right. it's something I've been talking also with Danelle Delgado for years, and Grant. Grant actually sat me down and gave me a 20-minute assessment of my life and career, and I actually cried during it. I recorded it, so that was 4 years ago, and I still need to do the marching orders that he gave me. So there will be some things coming. I just don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. That's the worst. Overpromise and overdeliver is fine, but to overpromise and underdeliver and say I'm going to have a course out there, that's a little bit. Let's just see how I do during my isolation quarantine. And there are some things as far as my website and a book that's been in the making for years that I need to really get these things accomplished.
Yeah, you definitely have a book life, bro. Like you have a life that is so full of stories. Like every time that I talk to you, I learn something new and amazing that you've done that I didn't know. So it's super cool. You've experienced a lot, and many people are inspired by you. Well, we're kind of at 90. Do you want to do another question, or we're kind of like?
Yeah, I think we should probably do a couple more because I feel so bad that I almost ignored the stream, which was very active and very interesting. Like Frank Caruso's is in Italy right now, so I'm sure Italy's feeling a bit more of the fears than we are here in the USA. I've got so many stories from all these people. Jason Alt is one of my clients, and I'm one of his clients. Ken Wentworth, Dr. Biz, Mr. Biz, sorry.
Let's see. Do you get stopped a lot when you go out in public? That's kind of it.
If I have a violin on my back and I'm in a city where Trans Siberian Orchestra is playing, I'll get stopped. And I kind of have a really neat career that I have some of the notoriety enough that I can accomplish things. I think it's part of the reason why Grant Cardone wanted, me to be a part of his speaker circle. Why Howard Schultz thought I was an interesting person,
Mm-hmm.
And also I'm able to get jobs and able to bring in some larger funds. But sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. What was the original question?
About being stopped in public.
I was in Japan in the airport once, and somebody from Ohio came up to me, and and then all they're saying is, "I saw you with Trans Siberian Orchestra. You're awesome." Or some the kids know. The kids will be like, "You're that crazy guy," and I those are my favorite compliments. But so what I've learned is after I speak or after I play is when all the value is there. So how I serve fundraisers or conferences is that I tell them to put me in a place that needs uplift, because everything after me is going to have all this positive inspirational wave connected to it. And so I just do my performing and speaking, guns a-blazing, tour de force, with a ton of positive power. And then afterwards is when it seems like I guess I get the rock star treatment. But believe me, it doesn't go to my head. I enjoy it.
Is there anything about like fame and success that you're like, man, I wouldn't wish this upon anybody?
Not in my position. That also shows though that I haven't reached out and pushed out as big as some other folks have. So I really like what has happened, but I really need to ramp it up. So Leah says, "Don't worry, Roddy, you are doing a great job, and we are here for it." So I do have some really good people out there that are encouraging me, and I encourage you also. Heather says, "What is your favorite country to visit?" Japan. All the way. And if anyone knows how I can pick up some Olympics tickets for 2021, let me know, because those are very hard tickets to come by. Jill Johnson, Chick-fil-A loved you. So Jill and I were talking, and she said, "You should speak at our annual event." And I've heard of Chick-fil-A.
Yeah,
and
I love Chick-fil-A.
and so she was the one that started that, and then I reached out to some folks on staff, felt very nervous, and there was some negotiations going on. They had their roster filled, and then one of the speakers dropped out, and they were saying to me, "So how much are you?" And I did the whole thing. I had on a piece of paper like my list of value. Bam, bam, bam. I can do this. I guarantee a standing ovation. The person after me is going to have a wave of inspiration. Put Dan Cathy after me, the CEO. And then at the end of it, I did straight from Grant Cardone's mouth. I said, "If I'm able to over deliver on all that we've talked about, would you agree with me that money really isn't an issue here?" And the woman said yes, and said, "This is our max." And they gave me a very high maximum speaker fee. And so I spoke at Chick-fil-A, and that's the feather in my cap, the arrow in my quill. That was the biggest. Well, and they did a TEDx format, so it was only 20 minutes. So it was the largest amount of money I brought in for 20 minutes was from a great company, Chick-fil-A. Let's see.
And it sounds like you delivered, because they're here and they're talking about what a great experience it was, right?
Yes. The Chick-fil-A people are amazing, as are the 10X people. Andrew Wiseman from Australia. Jeff Pitzer is still here. Thank you for letting me sit on your sofa, and thank you for praying for me when I had all my tears of loss. And Vinicius is from Rio, Brazil. We just want to say hi to everyone, not just to international people. Corinne, is there an artist you would love to play for? I want to get back with Celine Dion while she's still singing. Celine Dion is the Michael Jordan of vocals, and there is a violinist there, but we'll see what happens. I'm in contact with the current manager, and I am doing my octopus style I learned from Grant, reaching out a lot. Video text, email, LinkedIn, regular text, email, voicemail. And people will be like, "Isn't that too much?" And not really, because if I did it all in one day, every day, yes, that's too much. But for the most part, we're retreating too much, and to be able to lean forward is the only way to really possibly get a result. Devo is a Shania fan from a long time ago. Roddy, if you had 5 influential people with you at dinner, who would they be and why? Wow. Oh man. So influential people at dinner. Okay. Well, Grant Cardone. Yeah. And really because of our host, Matt here, I knew about Steve Vai, but Matt kind of made the introduction and helped me kind of see his spiritual side. I'd like Steve Vai to be there.
Oh, Roddy was on that broadcast, actually.
At the very end.
At the end, yeah.
What else would I like to be there? Celine Dion. Let's have her in there. That's 3. Michael Jordan. I hope everybody would have a great conversation. And then let's see, number 5, to spice it up and make it hilarious, would be Steven Tyler of Aerosmith.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That would be a crazy table there. I think Steven and Michael wouldn't even know what to say to each other, but off the top of my head, that would be 5 influential people. And Hugo Banks, if I had, Hugo's a friend of mine, he stalked me. He stalked me at a car show, and we became friends. And I brought him to a bunch of my events that he was able to get into for free. If you had one superpower, what would it be? To be able to magically transport and create a Lou Malnati's deep dish pizza with pepperoni by snapping my fingers, Hugo. I want to be able to create pizza out of thin air. Lastly, were you a Sabotage fan prior to joining TSO? I was a fan of the song. I'm doing it with my hands. in the Hall of Mountain King. So I was a huge fan of the Hall of the Mountain King song. I think I almost crashed my Dodge Omni playing that song.
And Chris is going to be on the show. Let's see. Let me
Chris
check.
Caffrey?
Yeah, him and Joel Hoekstra are going to be on the show. I'm looking here. Pulling it up.
Joel, man, is truly virtuoso. Joel is like the Steve Vai of today. He is so good. And I'm like talking to all you people backstage. He's like practicing. He's practicing while I'm socializing with my friends here.
Wednesday, April 8th at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be myself, Joel Hoekstra, Chris Caffrey, and Michael Melinda, former editor of Guitar Player Magazine. So check it out.
Awesome. So I could talk on forever, but I think I'm feeling that we should wrap it up. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we're getting there. I think honestly, the people viewing it, the number barely even dropped. Like I think people would just hang out all afternoon. You've got some great fans and friends out there, and I wanted to thank you guys for coming today and being a part of this. It means a lot to me. And I just Roddy, it was great for you to just family here and just down in my living room. I call it my studio, but I love it. It's where I live, you know.
I love it. And if anybody out there, when this all blows over, if you all know of someone that needs a speaker who can also play very enjoyable, upbeat violin, bring it up to me. Help me find out who that decision maker is. And I do know how to sell and market to that person. And I'll make you look great because it'll be a great event. I've been able to come in at the 11th hour and rescue a lot of fundraiser events and conferences. And like I said before, people typically pay me, but and we'll work something out. But if you want to directly message me and you want some advice, I'm going to take out some time to do some Skype, Zoom calling with some people. So reach out to me.
What's the way for people to get a hold of you?
Well, just direct message me, Roddy Chong, RODDYCHONG, and I'm the one doing it. So I don't have anyone doing my social media management. So no bots, no robots here. It's all me and my time. And so that's why I actually don't post that often, because I'm not on that much. But when I am on, I'm really enjoying this here, just saying hi to all these people I went to high school with, people I went to college with, like Lori, TSO fans, Grant Cardone fans, and people from Chicago and people from LA. This has been really fun. Thanks for setting it up, Matt.
Dude, thanks for coming on the show. It's a pleasure getting to know you.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So keep in mind we're doing these every day. So until this crisis is, we're gonna you the artists and the people that's the artists here on Kingdom of Rock. So tune in. And I did want to mention too, tomorrow we're going to have our first Zoom meeting for the Kingdom of Rock community. So I'm going to invite all of the guests of the show. I'm kind of in my planning right now, but I'm going to get everybody. Check the Kingdom of Rock page. It should be about 1 p.m. tomorrow. We're going to open a Zoom room and just kind of all get together, and maybe we can solve some problems that artists are suffering with right now, with like artists not compensated fairly by a tech company, like artists that are being kind of put out of business by in California, the AB5, and of course the current crisis, people are going broke, and we can raise some money or whatever out tomorrow. But Roddy, thanks for coming. Check him at roddychong.com, and 10x, and we're out. Kingdom of Rock.
All right, thanks guys, see you soon.